In this chapter, we focus on the meaning of variation in human traits, as well as other organisms. And we start to wonder about how are traits inherited, and we're going to even get some clues about the mechanisms of natural selection that we'll use later in the unit. The phenomenon that's going to drive this whole unit forward is the idea that humans have similar features but look different. By the end of the unit, our students should be able to explain a whole lot about why that is. We start with a pre-assessment to see what students already know about the core ideas of inheritance. And then we jump right in to the Humans and Life unit roadmap to preview the unit. We then share the story of the Great Potato Famine and ask the question, how could they have avoided the famine? The answer is the driving message for this unit. Diversity helps species survive. In the next lesson, students discuss the pre-assessment answers to make sure that everyone's on the same page about some core background ideas. Then students create a list that answers the question, what differences are there between different people? We then reveal a chart paper-sized version of the blank Investigating Traits class graph. Our goal for this day is to fill it with data about features present in our class, like widow's peak and tongue rolling. The Investigating Traits handout guides students as they collect data and analyze the results in small groups. Then they come together to add their findings to the class-wide chart and reanalyze now that they have more, fuller data. What differences do they notice? What causes these differences? Now that gets us started, but for homework they're going to record an inventory of their family member's trait on a handout. We start this lesson finishing up yesterday's analysis of our class traits and noticing differences. We use that phenomenon to formally introduce the idea of variation, and students craft, share, and refine scientific questions about variation in people. Our goal for the unit is going to be to pursue the question, what causes people to differ? And people differ in so many ways, so we start our quest by looking at variation in something much simpler, seeds. Over the next couple lessons, we're going to be investigating this smaller phenomenon that lima beans are different sizes. Now, lima beans are seeds, and so we notice there's some variation here. We start by introducing this phenomenon and really calling out the scale, proportion, and quantity cross-cutting concept. Now, part of the goal for doing this is that we're trying to give students a resource library of questions associated with this cross-cutting concept. So whenever they see things about size, they start thinking about some really generic questions like, how much does the size differ? Or is there a trend or pattern in the size difference? And by that we mean maybe there are more smaller beans and only just a few big ones. Or if I doubled the size, how would things work differently? That's a generic question. In this case with bigger beans, do bigger beans grow into bigger plants or survive better in some other way? Now that's one cause and effect relationship. What's the effect of the size? But we can also ask, what causes the size differences in the first place? All these questions will help drive students forward in their future scientific investigations. In the next lesson, we put those questions to work as students analyze and interpret their data. At the end of the activity, students should be able to address the question, what are some explanations for variation in lima bean sizes? Then, students will share out their homework findings and draw connections to what they saw in the lima beans. Now, we made some new discoveries, but we still have a lot of questions about how the variation actually happens. We'll revisit and discuss the Humans and Life unit roadmap to figure out what to investigate next. Up next, we'll see how these traits get passed along.